in the chapter of Tayammum, I will revise what we have mentioned last week. So there is a mistake in the translation as what I mentioned last week. So we will go through it again. So this is where we will start in our lesson today. But before that, as for the things that is mentioned beforehand, the author speaks about the distance. If you can remember about Haddul Raus, Haddul Qurb, Haddul Bu'd. Because in Tayammum, what is wajib is that we have to seek water. What is wajib is that we have to seek water. It is different than wudu. When it comes into Tayammum, you will not be able, you do not have the it is not permissible. It is not permissible for you to do Tayammum if you do not make an effort to find water. If you do not make an effort to find water, meaning in the sense that you have doubt and there is a possibility that there is water around you, then it becomes wajib for you to look for water. Then you do Tayammum. But if you do Tayammum without finding water, your Tayammum is not valid. That is why our ulama speaks about how you need to seek water and how far should we go in seeking water. At times it becomes wajib, at times it is not wajib. So we spoke about 150 meters, we spoke about 2.4 kilometers and beyond. So these are the three distances as what we mentioned. So I hope it is clear. There is no need for me to repeat because time is precious. We do not have much time in our lesson. And then we mentioned about is it wajib that you buy water? If you don't have water, for example, there is a person who is selling water. It is wajib if you have the ability to buy. For example, if he sells you in the market price, that's what he mentioned. وَيَجِبُ شِرَاؤُهُ بِثَمَنِ مِثْلِهِ إِنْ لَمْ يَحْتَجِ إِلَيْهِ لِدَيْنٍ مُسْتَغْرَقٍ. If you have extra money, then it is wajib for you to buy only in this with the condition that the seller sells you at the market price. The seller sells you at the market price. If the seller jack the price for example, then it is not wajib for you to buy the water and you can do Tayammum. This is what the author mentioned. All this we mentioned last week. These are basically extra money, extra than the loan that you have towards someone, or you need for your lodging in your journey as a musafir, or you need any money to buy, for example, the food for the animals that you are carrying with you, the animals that are respected. I also mentioned about the definition of animals that are respected in last week. And then you also need walau fil mustaqbal. For example, your journey requires 1 week for example. So on the second day you do not have water and you have excess money, but the money that you need for example is in need of the journey. In the future you have money but you need for the journey, then it's not wajib for you to buy the water that is sold. And then he mentioned wayajibu talabu hibatil ma. If a person comes to you and give you water, it is wajib for you to accept. But if you, for example, ask any people for money to buy water, then it's not wajib. Islam does not make it wajib for you to ask people for money, because money there is minna. That's what I mentioned last week. There is minna. It's not wajib for a person to ask any people to beg for money, for example, so that he can buy water. This is not wajib. But to ask for water, is wajib. If a person has water, there is no harm for you to ask water. But to ask for money to buy water is not wajib. Wasti'aratu dalwin. Then we have come to this part. What you call it, I will explain again. Wasti'aratu dalwin, meaning there is a well but there is no pail. There is a person that has the pail. Then wajib for you to lend him or borrow from him the pail, so that you can take water from the well. But if the person tells you that there is a price for this pail for example, then what you call it, it is not any wajib for you to ask any people for money in order for you to pay for the price of the pail, or to pay for the rental of the pail. This is what the author is speaking about. It is not any wajib. It is not wajib for you to ask around money so that you can buy what you call it. You can buy the pail, or you can rent the pail. So here it is not wajib for a person to ask people for money to buy water, or to ask any people for money to buy a pail, or to rent a pail. For when someone refuses to borrow you the pail, and unless you pay him any amount of money. ولو كان معه ماء يحتاج إليه لعطش حيوان محترم. And if what you call it, if a person has an animal which is a respected, for example, animal, then what you call it, it is wajib for him to give any preference that he uses the water to give to that any particular animal, so that the animal can drink from the water. So any excess than that, then only we say that if he has the capacity to buy, then it is wajib to buy. If he needs the money to pay for the water for his what you call it, for his animal, then it is not any wajib for him to buy. And then he mentioned walau fil mustaqbal wajabat tayammum. A person has an animal, camel, for example, and he needs any water for the camel, and he doesn't have what you call it, much money, except that the money has to be used for the animal, for example, then he has to perform tayammum, and he has to leave that water for the animal to drink, because this is an animal that is respected. So it is wajib upon him to do tayammum. ولا يتيمم للمرض إلا إذا خاف من استعمال الماء على نفس. If a person is sick for example, he should not perform tayammum unless if he fears for his life. If a person fears for his life, then it is permissible for him to do tayammum. For example, the doctor tells him, a doctor that is trusted, for example, tells him that if you use water, you will. If you use any water, you will die. And there is an incident that happened during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I do not know whether I mentioned this last week. He went into the battle, and then someone cut his what you call struck his head with a sword. So a lot of blood came out, and there is a deep cut. So during night time, he is in a state of janaba, and he asks the other friends if they know of any rulings that he can take, or any concession that he can take to do tayammum instead of bathing the janaba bath. So they say that we do not know of any concession, but we know that it's wajib for you to bathe. So he bathed and he passed away. So the Prophet ﷺ, he was angry, and the Prophet he taught the Sahaba that in this situation he can do tayammum. There is no need for him to bathe. Only he wash the parts that is not affected by the injury, and as for the part which is affected by the injury, he does tayammum in its place. So in this situation, we say that tayammum is permissible for the sick person only if in a situation where the sickness might lead to death, if he uses water. This is point number one. Point number two, if it leads to any of the body part to dysfunction, then it's permissible for you to do tayammum. And point number three, أو حدوث شيء قبيح, it changes the color of the skin. And if you use any water, certain skin diseases will make the skin turns to dark, black in color. For example, if a person uses any water in this particular situation, it is not wajib for you to use water. You can do tayammum. So there are three things here, and this is the thing I want to emphasize. And for those who are following this lesson, it is important to understand this part. Number one, any sicknesses that can lead to death. Number two, any sicknesses that can lead to dysfunction of any of the human organs. Number three, any sicknesses that can result in the change of the color of the skin. So this is the three sicknesses. They call it sicknesses yubihu tayammum, sicknesses that makes tayammum permissible. So you have to memorize this, ya Jama'ah. Sicknesses that makes tayammum permissible, because in the chapter of fasting, our scholars again we will speak about al-maradul ladhi yubihu tayammum, sicknesses that makes tayammum permissible. If a person asks you what are the sicknesses that makes tayammum permissible, three things. Number one, sicknesses that lead to death, or sicknesses that cause dysfunction of any of the organs, or sicknesses that change the color of the skin. So these are the three things that is called marad alladhi yubihu at-tayammum. So this is basically what the author mentioned. وَلَا يَتَيَمَّمُ لِلْبَرْدِ إِلَّا إِذَا لَمْ تَنْفَعْ تَدْفِئَةُ أَعْضَائِهِ it is not permissible for a person yani to do tayammum if he has water but it's too cold, unless he does not have any means to heat up the water. If you have any means to heat up the water, you cannot do tayammum unless you are in extreme coldness and you do not have a kettle or a heater, for example. Then it is wajib for you to do tayammum and pray. And just to take note, for those who are following, write this down. It is wajib for him to do i'adah. Wajib for him to do i'adah. Yani those who does tayammum due to coldness, wajib for them to perform al-i'adah, meaning when they find any water, heated up water, there is wajib for them to take wudu and pray again. This is called al-i'adah. Wa khafa ala manfa'ati udwin aw huduthu shay'in madhkur. And a person is fearful that if he uses the water, it causes dysfunction to the any of the body parts, and it causes the change of the skin color in any part of the body. Wa in khafa min isti'mal al-ma'i fi ba'd badanihi ghasala as-sahih. Now we have come to the part of the mas'ala of jabira. Our ulama mentioned this is the ruling of jabira. Jabira basically is like bandage. So now, for example, the author is saying if a person is fearful that by using water on some part of the body, so what he has to do is ghasal as-sahih. He has to wash the part that is not affected. Wa tayammama anil jirahi fil wajhi wal yadain. And he does tayammum for the parts that water cannot reach us, and he does tayammum fil wajhi wal yadain, no matter where the injury is, whether the injury is on the body or on the legs. Tayammum is on the face and on the hands. So if a person has an injury, for example, and there is bandage, and the doctor tells him that you cannot remove the bandage, and he has to bathe the obligatory bath, what he has to do is that he bathe as usual, but not letting any water reaches the bandage area. And then after that he does tayammum, and that tayammum is for the place that water cannot reach. It takes the place of washing, and when he does tayammum, he does tayammum one time one time on the face and one time on the hands. So this is what the author is mentioning. فَإِنْ كَانَ جُنُوبًا قَدَّمَ مَا شَاءَ. If he is in a state of junub, major ritual impurity, he can perform tayammum and bathe, or bathe first then perform tayammum. This is because bathing obligatory bath, there is no sequence. Sequence is not wajib. It's not part of the rukun. Whereas in wudu, sequence is wajib. That's what we covered last time, that in ablution, one of the pillars of ablution is a tartib, that you have to follow tartib, and you have to wash your face first, then you wash your hands, then you wipe your head, then you wash your legs. But in terms in obligatory bath, there is no tartib, meaning you can start with your feet, or you can start with your head, or you can start with your hands. There is no tartib. So when there is no tartib, you can choose whether to do tayammum first and bathe, or bathe first and then do tayammum. So this is what the author mentioned. Wa in kana muhdithan tayammama 'alal jarihi waqta ghaslil 'alil. But when comes to wudu, this is the thing that you have to be careful. When comes to wudu, what did he say? Wa in kana muhdithan, if he is muhdith, and in terms he doesn't have ablution, tayammama 'anil jarih, he does tayammum in place of the bandage or the place anywhere there is injury, waqta ghaslil 'alil, at the point of the body part where there is bandage. What is the meaning? So let me give you an example. Now imagine that a person has a bandage on his hands, whether right hand or left hand. There is bandage. Tamam? So now, when the person wants to take any ablution, he has to wash the face first, correct? The face has to be washed first. So he washed the face as usual. He washed the face as usual with the usual intention. Nawaitu ada'a fardil wudu, or nawaitu rafa'al hadathil asrar lillahi ta'ala. After washing of the face, now comes to wash the hands. So now the hands there is bandage, correct or not? So this is what the author meant. Waqta ghaslil 'alil. So where is the 'alil? 'Alil meaning the injury. So at the point of the body part where there is injury, and this is the sequence or the part for you to wash that particular part, Now this is the time for you to do tayammum. This is the time for you to do tayammum. So before I wash my hands, I do tayammum. When I do tayammum, where do I do tayammum? Same thing. Always remember, tayammum is only face and hands. No such thing as tayammum on the legs or on the body. Tayammum is only one tap for the face, one tap for the hands. So I do tayammum as usual. So when I make the intention of tayammum, then I have to take into consideration about what am I doing for this tayammum. If I want to pray the obligatory prayers, then I make the intention like this: Nawaitu istibahata fardis salah. Nawaitu istibahata fardis salah. If I'm praying the sunnah prayers, Nawaitu istibahata salah. Tamam. If I want to make sujud shukr, I mention Nawaitu istibahata sajdati shukri, or sajdatil tilawa lillahi ta'ala. So there are 3 stages. Stage number 1, the obligatory ibadah, that is the fard. Stage number 2 is the sunnahs, and stage number 3 is sujud tilawa or sujud shukr. So these are the 3 stages. If you make the intention for the first stage, you can do all of it. If you make the intention for the second, you cannot do the first. You can only do the second and the third. If you make any intention of the third, you cannot do the second and the first. So this is very, very important. So that is why chapter of tayammum, ya jama'ah, is not easy. It's not something you take dust and just put on your face and hands. You have to take consideration about the intention and how you need to make any intention. A lot of people are not aware. They are not aware about how even need to make the intention of tayammum. So that is why it is wajib upon every Muslim to study this. So for those who are following, now we have to understand this well and teach to people who need this knowledge. So ala kulli hal, nawaitu istibahata fardis salah. So now there is bandage on my hand. So I make any intention for tayammum after washing on my face. So I say nawaitu istibahata fardis salah. One tap for the face. So I wipe my face. Tamam. Before wiping out the face, of course, I make sure my face is dry. So earlier I wash my face, so I make sure my face is dry, and I one tap for the face. Then I tap again. One tap for the hands. Hands all the way up to the elbows and above a bit of the elbows to attain any conviction. So one tap for the face and one tap for the hands. One tap for the face and one tap for the hands. Some people might be asking, but now you have bandage on your hands. So meaning even the dust cannot reach underneath the skin. No issue. You only focus on the hands that there is no bandage. So you wipe your hands with the dust. As for the place where there is bandage, what you need to do is to wet your hands after the tayammum. For example, you wet your hands and you just wipe on top of the bandage. As for the parts that is exposed, wajib for you to wash after that. Remember this. Wajib for you to wash. So if a person has bandage on the right hand only, left hand mashallah, no bandage. So now after doing tayammum, you have to wash the left hand. As for the right hand, for example, the whole right hand there is bandage, for example. So what you need to do is to wet your left hand and to wipe the whole of the bandage on your right hand. And this is wajib. So wiping what you call it, tayammum, for your left hand and also your right hand, if there are part of your hands that are exposed, wajib for you to make sure that the dust reaches your hands. But when it comes into the bandage, wajib for you to wipe the bandage. So after the tayammum and after washing after you do tayammum, then you wash your hands, the parts that you can wash. Then after that only you wipe your head and then wash your feet, and then you can perform your prayers. So this is very, very important in your jama'ah. So it is important for those who have bandages or having accidents, for example, sometimes these things, these calamities happen. May Allah protect all of us from all kinds of musibah. But at times it happens to some. So this knowledge is important. So I hope it is clear, inshallah. If you have questions, you can ask. Inshallah, we have a few minutes left. While waiting for your questions, I just continue. After that, he mentioned summa in kana alayhi jabiratun naza'aha wujuban Yani the author is saying that if a person has bandage and he's able to remove the bandage, wajib for him to remove the bandage. Wajib for him to remove the bandage. Any meaning, a person has bandage, for example, on the right hand, but it's only a bit any scar, for example, a bit of cut. So we ask him, can you remove any of the bandage? He say, no problem. I can remove my bandage and I can wash any my hands. Now, in this any particular situation, wajib any to remove any of the bandage. When does the situation where we said it's not wajib for you to remove your bandage? The situation is this: if by removing any of your bandage, you will make the injury worse. You will make the injury worse. You will make your color of your skin change any color if it is affected by water. As what we mentioned, all these the types of sicknesses. It will cause any severe pain, for example. It will cause damage to your body parts. In this situation, it is not permissible for you to open the bandage. So here the author is speaking about if you have the ability to do so. If the doctor tells you no issue, this is just a small cut, for example, a person has plaster, the small plaster just a bit. Now it is wajib for him to remove the plaster. Remember this, because this is a minor cut where you have the ability to. There is pain, but there is just minimal pain, and normal person can take it. Then it is wajib for you to remove the plaster. But after washing of the hands, for example, you can put back the plaster. Even though there are some traces of blood, it is forgiven, no issue. You can pray while your plaster while putting back your plaster, because if you need, for example, to stop the blood from coming out, for example, there is no problem in praying while there is blood, for example, at your body parts. All this, what you call it? I think we spoke about blood, human blood, that is forgiven when we spoke about filth. I think so. But ala kulli hal, any blood that comes from ourselves, even if it is a lot, it is forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he mentioned فَإِنْ خَافَ مِنْ نَزْعِهَا. If he fears that by opening the bandage, غَسَلَ الصَّحِي وَمَسَحَ عَلَيْهَا. If he fears that by opening the bandage and there is a lot of harm, for example, then what he has to do is do not open the bandage. So as what we mentioned, غَسَلَ الصَّحِي, he wash the body parts that he is able to wash. وَمَسَحَ عَلَيْهَا. Masaha he takes water and he wipe over the bandage. And at the same time also, as what we mentioned, it is wajib for him to perform tayammum. وَتَيَمَّمَ عَمَّا تَحْتَهَا فِي الْوَجْهِ وَالْيَدَيْنِ. Then it is wajib for him to do tayammum, and this tayammum takes the place of what is beneath the bandage that water cannot reach, and he does tayammum fil wajhi wal yadain, on the face and on the hands. I do not know if there is any question. I believe so far there is no question. Also we have some connection issues for our internet. Ala kulli hal, there is a few minutes left. I'll just continue, inshallah. Then he mentioned وَيَجِبُ عَلَيْهِ الْقَضَاء. It is wajib for him to pay back the prayers. إِذَا وَضَعَ الْجَبِيرَةَ عَلَى غَيْرِ طُهْرٍ. طيب, if a person, for example, he, before putting the bandage, he is not in a state of wudu. He is not in a state of wudu. And he puts the bandage. And this applies other than the face and the hands. For example, the ankles. Ankles is part of the body part of wudu. A person has an injury in the ankles. So what he did was he put the bandage. The doctor put the bandage. So while putting the bandage, he has no ablution. So in this particular situation, whenever he wants to take wudu, he cannot wash the place where there is bandage. So he needs to take ablution, and he needs to do tayammum. So after taking ablution and doing any tayammum, is it wajib for him to pay back the prayers? Is it wajib for him to pay back the prayers? So in this situation, the condition is that if you put the bandage while you are in a state of tahara, you are in a state any of ablution, and for example, then it is not wajib any for you to make up any for the prayers. This is one of the condition. But if you put any the bandage in a situation where you do not have any wudu any, for example, then it is wajib any for you to pay back the prayers. So this is any the first any condition. The first any condition is then it is not it is other than face and hands. Condition number 2 is that when you put the bandage, you put the bandage in a state of tahara. And condition number 3 after that, and he mentioned aw kanat fil wajhi wal yadain, the bandage is at the face or the hands, wajib for you to do qada. And if the bandage is at the face of the hands, regardless whether you have ablution when you put the bandage or not, because the face and the hands is a part where you do tayammum. So not only dust cannot reach the hand, likewise water also cannot reach. So when both cannot reach, our scholars in the mother Imam Shafi, and he mentioned it is wajib for him to do i'adah, that he has to pray again. He has to pray again because there are shortcomings in that kind of prayer. But we say that the prayer is wajib, and it doesn't mean that you make qada or you do i'adah. The prayer that you do with tayammum is not valid. No, it is valid. It is valid. But due to the fact that there are shortcomings in that prayer, our scholars mentioned that it is wajib to pray again as ihtiyat, as a precaution. Although there are differences amongst the ulama whether it is wajib or not wajib. Some scholars mention it is not wajib as long as you do tayammum and you have performed the ablution. There is no need for you to to do the qada. No need for you to do i'adah. And they also mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not make it any compulsory upon you to perform a prayer that is a shortcoming in the sense that you have to pray again. So this is their argument. Their argument is that how can it's wajib for you to do the tayammum and wudu, and then after that it is compulsory for you to do the qada. This shows that the first prayer is not valid. But at the same time, when we are saying the first prayer is valid, but if the first prayer is valid, why does a person needs to do the i'adah? So we have such differences amongst the ulama. But the prevailing judgment in the Madhab Imam Shafi, this is the thing, ya Jama'ah. The prevailing judgment in the Madhab Imam Shafi is ihtiyat. It is to play safe. That since you have any shortcomings in this, and since there are differences among ulama, we go out of all the differences and we do i'adah. We pray again. But at the same time also, we acknowledge that the prayer is wajib. That the person who is sick, for example, he cannot be saying, inshallah, I will do qada after that. No, it's wajib for him or her to perform the prayers. But when it comes into the qada, there are differences as what I mentioned. The prevailing judgment goes back into all these conditions. That's why I mentioned point number 1, it is other than face and hands. Point number 2, that he puts the bandage in tahara. And point number 3, that it is not any part of the face and the hands, and it just like what I mentioned on the first point. So in that case, there is no i'adah. But if the bandage is at the face, for example, or at the hands, the place of tayammum, then it is wajib to do the i'adah. I hope it is clear, inshallah. أو كانت في الوجه واليدين ويقضي إذا تيمم للبرد. This one, as what I mentioned earlier, that if a person does tayammum because of coldness, it is wajib for him or her to do the i'adah, to pray again. أو تيمم لفقد الماء في الحضر. A person does tayammum when he cannot find water while he is in his country, for example, because why usually there is water, then it wajib for you to do qada or i'adah. Because you are doing tayammum in a place that usually there is water. Unless if you do tayammum in the desert where usually there is no water, then there is no need for you to do i'adah. Wal musafirul asi bi safarihi. And for the musafir who goes out traveling for the cause of committing any ma'siyah, then it is wajib for him to do i'adah. There is no rukhsah given to him. It is wajib for him to pray again after he prays using in tayammum. Wallahu alam bis sawab. So inshallah next week we will speak about other conditions of performing the tayammum. what are the conditions any of doing the tayammum. Inshallah, any be postponed any to next week. ربنا تقبل دعانا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم واختم بصالحات أعمالنا وآجنا يا الله يا كريم بفضل سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون سلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.